And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Coaches Show. I'm your host, Adam Gore, Stephen Chris in the back, and we've got a co-host via telephone tonight, the illustrious Brandon Speck of the Monroe Journal. Brandon, another Friday night of football. Everybody talks about how quickly they wish football would get here, and once it does, man, it don't take any time going away. 2 more weeks left in the regular season.
2 more weeks, and that's it. It's gone by extremely fast, so if somebody wished that, then they got their wish, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, let's run down some scores real quick in the viewing area. We're going to start with the game I was at. Shannon picks up a 25-13 win over Pontotoc. Brandon, a game that we'll talk about with you here in a moment. Aberdeen gets a 14-0 win over Morville. Probably not the upset shocker, but the biggest shocker score-wise of the night. Baldwin beats Bruce 27-7. Smithville over Coldwater 41-0. Hamilton beats East Webster 12-6. Faulkner picks up a 34-0 win over Thrasher. Kirk Academy 40, Oak Hill 0. New Albany picks up a big win, 42-20 over North Pontotoc. Coffeyville gets a 40-9 win over Tupelo Christian. Hebron Christian wins 40-8 over Emmanuel Christian. Nettleton picks up a 22-7 win over Winona. Walnut over Mantachie, 40-14. I've heard 2 scores on this, so you can pick whichever one you like the best and roll with it. Boonville gets a win, either 20-0 or 20-6 over Kossuth. Either way it goes, Boonville wins. Lafayette, well, they went on vacation. They went down to Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and they picked up a 14-7 win. Not necessarily a vacation on the ball game, but simple fact that it's kind of nice to go down to Florida and play a little football. Itawamba beats Tishomingo County 28-7. New Hope gets a win over Saltillo 6-0. Wheeler 28-22 winners over Biggersville. A mild shocker there. Water Valley picks up a 33-19 win over South Pontotoc. Calhoun City beats Hatley 28-0. Ripley beats Belmont. If you look at the records, a 2-5 winner in Ripley. You can call it a upset if you want, but I wouldn't necessarily classify it that. And then you got Okolona, a mild shocker here. Okolona 25-13 over Vardaman, and Oxford gets a 16-15 win over Hernando after a 35-yard field goal was wide right. Brandon, let's start with yours. The game that everybody's going to end up talking about. Still a win for Aberdeen, but 14-0 over Morville, a team that we're accustomed to seeing putting 30-plus points on the board. Not getting it done offensively tonight against Morville.
No, they just played like garbage. I mean, just to be blunt about it, and I can say that because Chris Duncan, their coach, after the game was pretty blunt about it too. He was not pleased. He was disappointed in the way they played. And, I mean, just being real and no disrespect toward Morville intended. Morville's just not as good a football team as Aberdeen is, and Aberdeen should have put up 30 or at minimum 30. You expect the 0 up there, but you don't expect the 14. So, they played sloppy, and it was homecoming. How much that had to do with it, who knows? But they didn't play a very good football game. Maybe it's good for them to get out of the way now, but they're going to have to go back to work and kind of rejuvenate themselves because they've got South Pontotoc left and Nettleton, and I think that Nettleton game could definitely be a trap game. Absolutely.
Brandon, one score I'm not seeing that you may or may not have, the Amory score tonight?
Yeah, Amory got beat 27-7 by Kosciuszko.
Okay. Not good there. That's going to sort of put a chink in their stride in the playoff race there. More games in your area. Smithville, no surprise here, getting a 41-0 win over Coldwater. Do you got any information on that game?
No, I haven't talked to Coach Tacker. I did talk to a couple coaches who had talked to him, and they were pretty much had 40 points by halftime, so not much of a challenge. I mean, outside of Okolona, I don't know who's going to even come close to challenging Smithville for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and speaking of Okolona, they did pick up that 25-13 win over Vardaman. Hadn't had a chance to talk with Coach Hollis about that game, so we'll look into that more throughout the week. Another game in your area, Hamilton picks up this is a big win, 12-6 over East Webster, a game that East Webster thought they had a pretty good chance of winning in order to help boost their chances of getting in the playoffs. Now Hamilton's looking at a pretty good shot. Or how many has Hamilton won 2 in the region yet?
Yeah, they're 1-2.
Okay, so they're 1-2, so they got to pick up one more win in order to get in.
Yeah, they need to win one more, but that's a big win. I mean, East Webster's not. This isn't the Jonathan Banks East Webster, but still they're a pretty good football team. That's a big win for Hamilton, especially considering they got beat 44-10 last week by Eupora.
Yeah.
So responding from that to beat East Webster on the road is pretty significant for those guys.
And if I'm not mistaken, are the two losses by Hamilton both to Upora and Ackerman?
No, it's Upora and West Lowndes.
West Lowndes, okay. All right, so they still got Ackerman and Jay-Z George left to try to pick up that next win, and those are going to be some tough goes there for them. Let's scan down real quick and look for some more score. Nelton, 22-7 winners over Winona. I actually have picked up Winona as a slight upset in this game, but Nelton pulls it out a much wider margin of victory than I expected. Don't know about you, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it'd be close either way, but Nelton continues to prove us all wrong. I think every week they win, and sometimes we still say, yeah, but they keep winning. That's a good football team. I think it's a solid playoff football team, and I do think in a couple weeks Aberdeen will beat them. I don't want to say handily as far as big score, but I don't think it'll be a problem. Then again, you watch Nelton play, and it wouldn't surprise me if they made a game out of it or even could win that football game.
Absolutely. And now the game I covered it was last night if you're watching now on Saturday, and I think it is last night when we were filming it. When you watched it yesterday. Shannon, 25-13 winners over Pontotoc. Brandon, we talked about this game on the ride home. Shannon dominated this game from the get-go. They had 169 yards total offense in the first half to Pontotoc's 17, but went into halftime trailing 7-6 after Pontotoc returned a blocked field goal, 97 yards for a touchdown. But Keon McGaughy, man, he proved he's the real deal tonight. 35 carries, 216 yards, and a touchdown. Big win for Shannon. They stay undefeated heading into that Itawamba game in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he is the real deal. He's good, and that Shannon team is. Yeah, some people wonder how they'll play in a 13-12 game, or I don't know, but that team can play. I saw them play Amory, and it was pouring rain here, and they executed decently, but of course you can't expect to execute too well in that kind of downpour. But they were really solid. They're fundamental. They know how to win, whatever way they need to find to win. So that game in a couple of weeks will be a doozy. I know we all like to be watching that one.
Absolutely. And Baldwin picks up a 27-7 win over Bruce. This is a team that went into the region play winless and picked up a win over Calhoun City. Picked up a win over Baldwin. Man, they are rolling now that they've gotten into division play.
Yeah, don't count those guys out. I mean, we all thought they'd be down a little bit as much as they lost, but I don't think any of us thought they'd be 0-5 after non-division play. But 3-0, they've got the leg up as far as a division champ.
Yeah, and it's very, very important to get this division championship because they match up with the Delta region of 2A, and you sure don't want to go in that March to take on Hollandale Simmons and teams like that, West Bolivar especially, on the road there. Let's look down some more scores. Actually, we've got a couple of minutes till we go to a break, so we're going to take and look down a couple of more scores. This Water Valley South Pontotoc game. Water Valley beat Nelton earlier in the year. Picks up a 33-19 win over South Pontotoc. Really no surprise there. But one thing it is kind of surprising is Water Valley could be finding their offensive stride. They hadn't put up 33 points all year.
Yeah, I watched them play Aberdeen last week, and they put up 13. It was both pretty much garbage time scores against Aberdeen late in the game, but they dominated Nelton, a team that can score. I thought Nelson beat them they beat Nelson 7-0.
Yeah.
7-6.
Yeah.
Something like that.
7-0.
If they find their scoring stride, they can be dangerous.
Absolutely. We owe you a commercial break real quick, so we're going to break away here on the Coaches Show. We're talking with Brandon Speck of the Monroe County Journal. He's our phone line co-host tonight. Jeremy Kennedy had the night off. We will expect to have Jeremy back next week. But we're going to take you to a real quick break. We'll come back. And welcome back to the Coaches Show. I'm Adam Gore, Stephen Chris in the back, and joining us as our co-host tonight is Brandon Speck of the Monroe Journal. Monroe360.com is where you can read more from Brandon and keep up with everything that is Monroe County. Brandon, let's talk about some games outside the area. South Panola picks up a 42-0 win over Tupelo. Upora picks up a 16-6 win over Jay-Z George to stay undefeated. You look at West Point, they're rolling inside division play as well, 43-0 winners over Lake Cormorant. Corinth picks up a 38-0 win over Alcorn Central. Ackerman 27-0 over West Lowndes. Durant 33, Montgomery County 10, and Charleston a 48-0 winner. A team that I feel like will be the team that faces Aberdeen in the North 3A championship. They kind of got the raw end of the deal last year, Brandon. After that Amory upset and Winona upset, Charleston probably played the best number 4 seed in the history of number 4 seeds in the history of sports.
Yeah, you talk about a bad draw. That's the definition of a bad draw when Aberdeen comes in as a number 4 because of a couple lucky games. Well, not lucky, but a couple of mishaps at the end of the year in division. But hey, let's all hope we get Aberdeen and Charleston, because that's one of those two will be in Jackson. I think we're safe to say.
Yeah, I would say I think it's very safe to say that as well. Brendan, let's look down. I know you kind of just keep off what this time of year when we get more closer to the playoffs. You kind of keep up with as well. 2 weeks left in the season. Some of the guys that you've seen this year, who do you feel like might be one of the players that, say, if you were to take them off their team would greatly struggle from versus having them on the team now?
You know, the first guy that comes to mind, I don't think you'll find any fault with this at all, is Antoine Freeman.
Most definitely.
From Smithville. I mean, I think you take a guy like a Jamerson Love off an Aberdeen team, and they're definitely affected. Do I think they could have as much potential to go to Jackson without him? No. But you talk about taking a guy like Antoine Freeman from Smithville, and they go from having a chance to go to Jackson to possibly not beating Oklahoma, or they definitely don't beat Vardaman.
Yeah.
And the better teams in 1A. And this guy, if you hadn't seen this guy, find some film, find something, go see Smithville play. He's the real deal, and he's not a 1A guy that can play in 1A. He's a 1A guy that can play in 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
most
definitely.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'll agree with you wholeheartly on that. Let's talk about Anthony Franklin over at Nelton as well, the quarterback, a kid that had a lot of guys saying, he's got good size, good strong arm. It's one of those that we talked about Jamie Boland having Coach Clark there. You really think that if he had the same opportunity to sort of get thrown to the wolves like Jamie did, and then a couple of years to rebound from that, we could be talking about him being one of the top stakes quarterbacks.
I think so too, and it's funny you say that. I'm sitting here watching some video of Franklin now, and he's 6'3", and he's got a cannon for an arm. And you wish like you said, he had that sophomore year that Jamie had 3 or 4 years ago. But this is a guy that not a lot of people know anything about. But he's a guy that could come in the playoffs and make some people know who he is outside this area. Absolutely.
Well, of course, with the new classification, we sort of got a more equal playing field in 4A, 5A being split up. And, man, looking at the 4A playoffs, man, I don't think it's going to get much more exciting than that. You got Pontotoc, who didn't play their best game tonight in a 25-13 loss to Shannon. You've got Itawamba. You've got Lafayette. You've got Senatobia, who lost a 26-25 game to Rosafort. Man, I tell you right now, getting that home field advantage in Class 4A is going to be huge. So every game from this next 2 weeks are going to be equally huge for these teams.
Yeah, 4A is just that, every year you have that one division that everything is good, everybody's good, and you're top heavy and middle heavy, and that's what 4A is. I mean, you look at those teams you just rattled off, and that's a playoff bracket you don't want to be in, no matter which division you play in, because there are going to be a lot of people get beat who probably deserve to go on. So that should be interesting.
Absolutely. I know 2A football, there's a lot of teams in the Delta right now that's just tearing it up, man. You look over here, we talked about Baldwin already. Calhoun City got that 28-0 win. It was this time last year when they got hot, found their rhythm offensively, and the next thing you know, they're playing for the Class 1A championship down in Jackson.
Yeah, and who knows, teams like that, who knows what will happen now. Who's going to be the Calhoun City this year? I don't know. Maybe it's Baldwin, because even though Baldwin's 3-0, people still aren't giving Baldwin a whole lot of credit. They're not getting votes and rankings and that kind of thing. So I don't know. It could be Baldwin in 2A that does what Calhoun City did last year. You play right at the right time, and who knows what will happen. You're right.
Absolutely. Now, we talked about Antoine Freeman and Smithville earlier. Let's go to that offensive line that's in front of him as well. That offensive line is huge for anybody on any classification, but for it to be a 1A offensive line is really going to give them a big edge heading into the playoffs, where they can just get out and grind out and just smash mouth football their way down to Jackson.
Yeah, I think they average like 250, 260.
Yeah.
It's upwards. And those guys, you've seen them, they're massive. And, Smithville's only weakness, and this is just strictly an opinion, and you and I talked about it, I think they have problems with a team that can pass really efficiently.
Yeah.
But that said, that line and having a running back at quarterback and his brother Datron just as equally good at running back, they can eat clock.
Yeah.
That Smithville team is dangerous. I honestly think that is the 1A team that will be in Jackson.
Yeah, I'm saying, of course, it's been a while since they've been down there, but they are a team that has been traditionally rich when playing a 1A football. We look at some of the players in 3A. You look at Boonville They got the win over Kasuth tonight. Really nothing impressive there. Kasuth not taking anything away from Kasuth, but it was a game that Boonville was supposed to win. But you look at Boonville, Aberdeen, and Charleston, probably your top three teams in the North right now, all battling out. And as we talked about a little while ago, Aberdeen and Charleston sort of being those top two favorites.
Yeah, that Boonville and Aberdeen game is one that I'd like to see as well. It's just two teams that happen to be in different divisions, and we won't see them play unless it's the playoffs. So that could be a good game. If Aberdeen plays as Aberdeen can play, I think they win it, pretty handily. But who knows? They haven't played, and Jim Drury's known to pull out some games that you don't think he's going to win. So we'll see.
And then you look at the New Hope Saltillo game. New Hope wins 6-0. Saltillo, a team that not a lot of people, they said they struggled against some of the lower competition when they were, I think, a 4A or a 3A school. All of a sudden, they jump up to 5A, and now they're having a pretty good season. They had a chance to beat a team in New Hope that I think is kind of becoming one of the media favorites to sort of jump on them and jump on board to get them ranked. But Saltillo, we saw them a couple of times this year on TV7. They're a team that I personally feel could be another dark horse that come in there, may not make a deep push in the playoffs, but could shorten someone else's.
Yeah, I don't think they're that good offensively, but defensively they're really good and much improved from last year. And they've got enough offense that if the defense holds, they can score a couple touchdowns and win a couple ball games. But I've said this before, and I'll stick to this. Of course, that's my neck of the woods. I live out there.
Right.
And Saltillo, give them 5 years, and this will be a team that's tough to beat. Probably in 6A at that time, it's growing like wildfire. And give them 5 years, and that team, depending on the influx of people from Tupelo, will be a team to mess with. Because the school's just big, and they've got athletes. And you can see this year they've improved a lot just from last year. So the bigger they get, the more dangerous they're going to be.
Absolutely, and of course we'll keep an eye on that as well. I want to quickly run through the scores before we take you to one more break. These are scores from the viewing area. Shannon 25-13 winners over Pontotoc. Aberdeen 14-0 winners over Morville. Baldwin 27, Bruce 7, Smithville 41, Coldwater nothing. Hamilton 12-6 winners over East Webster. Faulkner 34-0 winners over Thrasher. Then you've got New Albany 42, North Pontotoc 20, Coffeyville 40, Tupelo Christian 9, Nettleton 22, Winona 7. Then you got Boonville 20-0 or 20-6 winners over Kasuth. Lafayette County steps out of the regional play and out of state, goes and beats Fort Walton Beach out of Florida 14-7. Itawamba beats Tishomingo County 28-7. New Hope, as we talked about, gets the 6-0 win over Saltillo. Willard pulling the mild upset, I guess you could say, 28-22 winners over Biggersville. Water Valley 13-19, better than South Pontotoc. Kansas City blanks Hatley 28-0. Ripley gets a 37-28 win over Belmont. Oakland on 25, Vardaman 13, and Oxford 16. Hernando 15. That is the scores throughout the viewing area. We do owe you one more break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the softball action going on this Saturday down at Jackson. Brandon Speck and myself will actually be leaving as we're taping the show probably in a few hours, or we're actually already down in Jackson by the time you're watching this. So we can take you to a break. We'll come back with more with Brandon Speck of the Monroe Journal. Remember, you can check him out at monroe360.com. So we're going to take you to and welcome back to Action, ladies. Not Action, it's a coach's show. I apologize. I do that each week. Anyway, it's the Coach's Show. I'm Adam Gore. Brandon Speck joining us on the phone, our co-host this week, Brandon Speck of the Monroe Journal. As we said, monroe360.com. Brandon, it's been a wet year, and it's been hectic getting in our softball games, but we are now down to the final 3, maybe even 2 if we're lucky, as we've got 3 teams in the viewing area going down. We've got Hamilton, we got West Union, and Nettleton, all going to be battling out for state championships tomorrow at the VA Fields in Jackson, the slow pitch MSHAA championship games.
Yeah, I think we got a shot. I mean, we got a shot to bring 3 trophies home for the North in this area. So who knows? All 3 of these teams you just mentioned, if people hadn't seen them, can hit the softball.
Yeah.
And that's how you win slow pitch games. And you and I have a long day ahead of us tomorrow, but it should be fun.
Absolutely. Let's talk about West Union. You came up and saw them for a bit. Coach Andy Kirk has got his girls playing well. They knocked off Nettleton. The only loss Nettleton suffered this year in a 5-4 game. Kimberly Jumper, she can straight rope the ball, batting over 600. West Union's a team, they got to go up against West Lincoln, a team that Bogachita and West Lincoln have combined to win the South State Championship game 6 years straight. West Lincoln, they've got 7 starters returning from that team last year that lost in 3 games to Smithville.
Yeah, I got to see West Union beat Nelton. I saw them earlier that day in that tournament in Nelton, and you're right, they can just rope it. That team knows how to hit, and I expect nothing less than them to go in there and at least contend, because they're going to hit the softball and they're going to hit it hard and they can place it. So you expect them to at least have a shot at it. I don't see any of those 3 teams, especially them going down and getting easily handled. I don't know. You've seen them more than I have, but I just don't see them going there and dropping a 0 on the board.
Yeah, Hamilton, another team that has gotten hot the late of the year. They dropped a couple of games to Baldwin. Got that, as your report said, sweet revenge in the ball game.
You win them when it counts, and they won it in North Half. So I don't know when else it counts more except for tomorrow. So that team can hit as well. And
we're in the final minutes of the show here, Brandon, so we're going to wrap this up quickly, talk about Nelton. We saw them today against Boonville. Boonville, man, they ripped the softball, gave Nelton everything they wanted, but these 2 girls by the name of Jessica Patterson and Haley Parker just hit like 30 home runs today.
It seemed like it, didn't it? And Haley's, and I wish we had video of this, she's a left-hander, and she hit the thing to right field, and just a rope. And when it came off the bat, you knew it was gone. And to watch her hit's unbelievable. But that whole team's like that. They lift weights, and that's got a lot to do with it, but they know how to play softball. So if you hadn't seen Nelton, get down there tomorrow and check them out as well as Hamilton and West Union. It'll be a treat.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, it can't be that hard to hit a home run in slow pitch softball, you don't think?
No, it definitely can. In fact, I think you and I could probably take Patterson and Parker in a home run derby battle.
I think you're right. As we're in the final minute of the show here, I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do. You saw us try to hit against Michelle Hester and Cammie, Cammie Roberts of Smithville last year. After the state championship's over, we'll give them a week to rest. Why not go out to the park and see if we can show them how to hit some home runs?
Yeah, we'll see if we can show them how it's done the male way.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap up the show there. Brandon, sorry to interrupt as we're in the final. Jessica, Haley, we're coming for you. This has been the Coaches Show. Adam Gore, Brandon Speck, appreciate you joining us. Remember, everybody go by, check him out, Monroe360.com. Stephen Chris in the back. We'll see you next time, folks.